Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Stop Sabotaging Yourself, 8 things you do to block your own success. My name is Simone Elbow. I am the Limitless Life Coach, and I'm really excited about this series that I've been doing over the last, now this is day number 4, and thing number 4 that we do to block our own success. And I think that it's been really enlightening. It's eye-opening. It's a slap in the face. It's what we really need to examine where we are before we get into another new year. And I know a lot of people feel like 2020 is just a wash and there's nothing to look forward to with 2020. But I believe that we still have so much that we can be thankful for, so much that we can look forward to, so much that we can plan for and really operate in success. And so without further ado, I want to get right into what we have been doing all week. And if you are new, joining us for the first time, again, this is the series Stop Sabotaging Yourself, 8 things you do to block your own success. And the reason why I thought this was important at this time of the year is that it really is important for us to understand why we feel stuck in life, why we feel like I make 2 steps forward and 5 steps back. Like I feel like I'm not making progress. And a lot of times we may do things like blame other people, blame circumstances. And so that's success blocker number 1 that we talked about on Monday, that we like to blame other people and other things for the things that we go through, the things that we experience, when it really could be ourselves, that we really have to take personal responsibility for the things that we experience or not experience in our lives. The second thing that we went over is procrastination. And we tied procrastination into perfectionism because we put things off, things that we know we ought to do, things that we know we should focus on. We just don't do it. And we have to dig into, why do we do that? Why do we push off? And so this entire series really is based on things that we do to sabotage ourselves. So it's really self-sabotage that we are after. And I'm just trying to understand. And last night, we talked about inconsistency. That's what we talked about last night. Inconsistency. That means we are committed to not commit to ourselves. We're committed to not choose ourselves. We're committed to not going after our goals or being as fully invested in ourselves as we ought to be. And when we are inconsistent, it means that we can't make progress. And so we've had a really good time talking about things and sharing resources. If you are not part of the Limitless You group, Facebook group, if you're there, every segment that we do, there is a unit of study. There's a self-assessment. There's all of these resources, these recordings. We gave away a Stop Procrastinating journaling guide. So you can access that for free as long as this series is running. And we also share some other reading resources and even some video. So for last night, I shared in the group a video of Lisa Nichols talking about, that juggling act between having your job and moving forward in your vision, because we talked about that as well, not being sold out to any particular thing and using your job to fuel and funnel funds into your passion. So I want to welcome all of you back. I see all of our regulars are back tonight. I see Renee is back and Trisha is back. And some of these, I can't see your name because if you don't give this platform permission, then it will hide your name. So, you got to see the video. Good. Trisha, good. Yes, it was a good video. It's not her typical, the way she tells the story, but I enjoyed the way she told the story in that particular video. And it was short enough, I think, to get the point. So really happy to have you all back. And so I am going to get my screen going so that we can get started with number 4. What do you think number 4 is? Let me see if y'all have can hazard a guess, as they say. What do you think number 4 could be? I mean, we've hit a lot of hot spots already. I mean, what's bigger than procrastination? Inconsistency, blaming. What's the other thing? Oh yeah, those are the 3 that we talked about. So what do you think number 4 could possibly be? Well, no one is in the guessing mood tonight. So now what do you think it might be? There is a hint. What do you think? What do you think? No guesses? Here we go. The suspense is over. There is the drum roll. Oh, Cardell. Sorry, I'm just seeing the comment. Vanessa, that was a very good guess. Fair would be a good one. And we are going to talk about fair in some way. Oh, Cardell, sorry. The question was, what do you think number 4 is? So number 4 is silence. Silence. One of the things that we do to sabotage our success. One of the things that we do to block our progress. So of course I had to make this little pun on the mask, right? I mean, because it's all about the mask now. But honestly, when we don't speak up, we truly hinder how far we can go, what kinds of opportunities we can take advantage of, the kinds of relationships and the quality of the relationships that you want to have. There is so much that you can miss out on, so much that you can cost yourself when you don't speak up. And it's not only defending yourself, because I think a lot of people feel that communicating how you feel means that you have to be confrontational. And so people feel like if I speak up, then I'm in your face or I'm argumentative, and I'm not that way. I am a peacemaker. You know, I like to just be kind to everyone. I don't like arguments. You know? And so when you do that though, when you don't speak up the way that you ought to, then you rob yourself of the opportunity to not only speak your mind, to say what you want, to say what you need, to share and establish boundaries for your life. There's so much that's lost. And I can tell you that even in the professional setting, I see it a lot. I see it in human resources. When people feel that they're being overlooked at work, you know, they want a promotion or they want an opportunity. They want to be selected for something, to be selected for a training or to go to a conference or to participate in something. And they just don't see it. They don't say anything. And they assume that the people around them ought to know how they feel, ought to know what they're thinking, ought to know what they want. People who are in relationships and they're expecting their significant other to read their minds. If you love me, then you should know what I want. You should know what I'm thinking. You should know what hurts me. You should know what makes me happy. How many times do people buy gifts for people and then what do? We pretend that we like it and we know we don't like it and we give it away. Or then the people wonder, well, how come you never use my gift? How come I've never seen you in this gift that I got, or see you wear this gift that I got you or something, or I've never seen it displayed anywhere. And a lot of times you say, well, I just want to spare that person's feelings. But when we do that, we rob each other of the opportunity to be transparent, to be authentic, and then we build these relationships, whether they're work or otherwise, work or personal. We build relationships on rocky foundations because we have not been honest. We've not been honest with ourselves. We've not been honest with the people around us. And we all lose out. You know, I remember going through times where I would not speak up and then I would be angry. I would be so angry at the people around me because I'd be like, you know, they should know. First of all, they should know, or they should be able to read my body language and see. They should be able to see that something's wrong. Aren't we like that? And then sometimes the people will ask you, you know, they'll ask you, so is something wrong? And then what do we say? No, everything cool. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm okay. Everything cool. But we all can tell that something is wrong with you. You're not saying anything. And so we need to address the silence. We need to take that mask off. We need to take that blockage off our mouths. And it is time to speak up. It is time to speak up. Y'all write that in the chat. It's time to speak up. It is time to show up. It is time to shine. I also posted that with the quote that I mentioned of Marianne Williamson. It is your time to shine. Why don't you want to shine? Why don't you want to be noticed? So the question to ask ourselves as we dig into this tonight and understand what silence does to us in our lives, in our work, in our personal lives. What does silence cost you? What does silence cost you? And I have just a few things here, and this is not an exhaustive list, but you could throw this in the chat as well. What does silence cost you? For me, I know that silence has cost me relationships. Silence has cost me opportunities, growth opportunities, opportunities to be mentored, opportunities to get money. I mean, sponsorships, like things that I really, opportunities, everything that I want, because I don't say what I want. Nobody's going to know what I want, so then I don't get it. So there is a cost attached to being silent. There is a cost attached to being silent. Hey, look at my baby sis. I see you, Nikita. Cardell, Jerron, good to have you. That's right. It is time to speak up because the silence is costing you. So let's look at the first thing: opportunities and visibility. So when we stay silent, when we are the ones that just sit in the boardroom or sit in a meeting and sit in church or wherever we find ourselves in our civic groups, and we are just the fly on the wall or the little butterfly that's just there, the quiet one, what ends up happening? People don't even realize that you're there. It's just like you are invisible when you are silent. And so when the people around you, and I say this all the time, people who may not be as talented as you are will get the opportunities because they are louder than you are. And I talked about this, I think it was last night, when we are projecting on people, when we're saying, well, I don't like that about that particular person. And we say that, but secretly, we wish we were like that type of person. If we were to really be honest about ourselves. Look at that person, they always the first one to have something to say in the meeting. They're volunteering for something. But that's how they get noticed. I can't tell you the amount of meetings that I've been in as a human resource professional. It isn't always the people that are closest in proximity to you that make decisions about you. And if they don't know who you are, your name is not even going to come up. And even if the people who are in proximity to you bring your name up, if people at higher levels and people in different spheres don't know who you are, you ain't going nowhere. Especially if those people don't have the kind of influence that's needed to push for your opportunity. I remember one of the lessons that I've learned as I moved up the ranks. I mean, I've had tons of lessons from being a new manager to moving up to an executive role. And my first opportunity in an executive role taught me a lot about this speaking up and how to speak up, because that's a big thing. And I don't even know if I could get into all of that tonight, but I think how we speak up is critical. I'm going to do something, I think, a follow-up on this. But especially when we are uncomfortable about speaking up, we go to two extremes and we polarize our response. So either it's silence or it's being boisterous, too aggressive, too hostile, too confrontational. And we don't let that pendulum swing to hit the middle, where I know when it's time to be silent. I know what battles to fight. I know when I need to speak up for myself and how. This is critical. And so for me, I am an activist. I shared that in the very first session and talked about myself. So I'm an advocate for people. I love to stand up for people. I stand up for people more than I stand up for myself sometimes. But I realized that speaking up in that way takes strategy. You can't just be the one blabbing off all the time. Then it means now that you've wasted your speaking opportunity. You've wasted the potential influence that you had because you overdo it. You overdo it. And then when you open your mouth, you know those people, when they open their mouth again, you roll in your eyes. You're like, oh Lord, them again? Good grief. I don't even want to hear them, because nothing that they say, even if it might be valuable, because they've already burnt that bridge, because they've already just diminished the value of their words because of the constant speaking or speaking in the wrong context, speaking in the wrong way. It's given them the wrong kind of visibility. So it's given them visibility and a negative label. So you don't want that. And I think because we see that around us, we feel that, well, I don't want to be that person, so I'm just going to be quiet. But it's costing you. It's costing you because the people that are moving ahead of you and grabbing up opportunities that you could also partake in are the ones that are getting noticed. So your silence is costing you opportunities. Your silence is costing you visibility, necessary visibility for the right people to know who you are. A lot of times I've come across professionals. I'm talking about amazing professionals. People are doing well in their jobs and even on social media to an extent, on certain platforms. But it still amazes me how some people don't want to be. They still talk about social media as if it's the devil. I was chatting with a friend of mine who is in an executive role, and he was like, "Oh, I don't like social media. Social media is the devil." I said, "No, it's not. The platform was not created to be the devil. It's like any tool. People will use it for good and people will use it for bad. So if we have the opportunity to use a platform, why not use it for your good?" And this is why the whole phenomenon of social media influencers has come about. People who have thousands and millions of followers, to the point where corporate has recognized the power of using the influence of those people with their followers to get them to follow their business. So they would use advertising and marketing dollars to support an influencer so that that influencer can spread the word about their business or their product or their service. So this is why you would see popular people, we call them endorsements, right? You would have athletes, celebrities, singers, comedians, athletes, whoever it is, because why? They know that they have influence. But how do you build influence if you're not visible? If those people were not on social media, those companies would not be paying attention to them. So you have to get out there. You have to get up, but it is what you use your platform for. And this is one of the pet peeves that I have with people who are influencers. Influence people for good. Influence people to champion positive causes so that you build a powerful brand of influence and positivity. I'm very adamant about that on my social media pages. You will never, and I could categorically say this, you will never see on any of my pages where I am talking about politics or any kind of hot button subject matter or taboo subject or having a position on something. And you may say, well, that's cowardly. No, it's wisdom. Because at the end of the day, whatever you put out there, you're not going to get back. So I might feel like that today, and then tomorrow I might not feel like that. But now the world already has opinion A, and opinion A is not going anywhere. And then I'm also cognizant of the people that I want to reach and the reputation that I want to have and the influence that I want to have and what I want to be known for. What is my legacy? And so in my visibility, also has, I have to be cognizant of my brand. And we all have a brand, all of us. And so we have to do some more work on what is that brand and how do I want to position that in the market and what is the end result of that? Is it that I want to get more business? Is it that I want more clients? Is it that I just want to be positioned as a thought leader, someone who is an expert in that subject area or my area of expertise? But you can only do that if you share it. And so I tell people all the time, especially if you're on LinkedIn, that's a professional platform. A lot of people are looking for work or looking to change jobs. Position yourself as an expert so that you will attract and draw people to your profile, and they'll look at your profile. Because trust me, employers all over social media, I'm noticing the banks and all now going on social media to try find people to pay their bills. They tried a different strategy for collections. So people are on there. People are watching. The majority of the opportunities that I get, I have gotten from being visible or showing up to opportunities so that people see me, they hear me somewhere, and they will come and say, hey, I heard you at XYZ. Could you come and do that? Happened to me so many times this year. So I did a short presentation for a local chapter of a sorority, an international sorority. Someone asked me to do a session in the pandemic on, dealing with grief and pain and all of that stuff. And I didn't know who was in that crowd. It's Zoom. You don't even know who's on the other side. But my philosophy is I don't care if it's an unpaid gig or a paid gig. If it's 5 people or 500 people, I'm going to show up in the same way. Because as I mentioned, it's your brand. It's who you are. And so I didn't realize that someone in that audience was from a chapter of that sorority in the US. And months after, that person found me on Facebook, messaged me, and asked if I would speak at their chapter in the States at their retreat. And I was like, what? I'll say, well, how did she find me? And she said, well, I was in the session that you did a couple months ago. And I'm like, wow. And it just spills over just like that. I remember my first international or regional opportunity in a long time. It wasn't my first ever, but it was my first in a long time of going somewhere and traveling to speak. And that was, I would say, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And the person, again, hit me up on Facebook. Never met this person before. And she wrote me on Facebook and she said, I'm doing a conference in St. Lucia for International Women's Month or whatever that was. I think that's March or something like that. That was like 3 years ago. And she said, I would love for you to come and be one of my speakers in St. Lucia. I was like, wow. And I went, and I remember I was sick as a dog. I was so sick. I had such a horrible, well, I thought it was the flu, but it turned out to be some sort of upper respiratory infection or whatever. But I said, I can't let this young lady down. I have to do this no matter what. And so I went over there sick. I showed up. I performed sick. I just barely made it through that presentation. Every night I would just flop into bed, coughing and this and that. I mean, sick as a dog. Coming back, I've never been that sick in my life. I've never had to be in a wheelchair, but I could not walk off the plane. I had to request a wheelchair to get from the plane that landed from St. Lucia to Miami to the next gate for Nassau. I had to ask the person pushing the thing, could we please stop to one of these stores? I was freezing. I needed one of those travel blankets or something. I mean, I couldn't believe how sick I was. But after that, it's been 3 years since. The same lady has been hosting. She doesn't live in St. Lucia. She's from St. Lucia, but she doesn't live there. She lives in New York. And she has a foundation, which was sponsoring that event in St. Lucia. Now we fast forward 3 years later, and she's in a jam, and she was like, could you please help me out? I need someone to be on this panel discussion that we're having in India. I'm like, India? And of course, none of these events are paid, A lot of the things that I'm out there doing, I don't get paid for. But it's visibility, and one feeds the other. And so I showed up and I did it. I served on the panel discussion. And now I've been on that particular platform in India in the pandemic about 3 times now, and connecting with some amazing people in India and Dubai and all of these places. I just this week spoke at a Middle East AR summit. I'm like, how on earth did I get there? And then you got to get up so early because of the time difference. But it's opportunities that come because of visibility. And I'm not saying any of these things to show off or anything like that. I'm sharing these things with you because if we don't speak up, this is what we lose. Next thing that we can lose is understanding. And what do I mean by that? Understanding between you and others. So as I mentioned before, a lot of times we, end up in relationships, whether that's work or otherwise, and we are always holding our peace. We always say, well, for the good of whatever, I'm just not going to say anything. To keep the peace, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to get into all of that. So if that's how you feel, then carry on. But then what do you carry away with you when you do that? Sometimes people don't understand how you really feel. People don't understand how you think. People don't know who you are as a person. And so we lose. We lose the opportunity to show people who we are, to get into our heads sometimes. And sometimes we don't want people to get into our heads and our hearts. We do it to protect ourselves. But it's important to have understanding between people. I read a book just recently, maybe a month ago, called The 4 Agreements. And I'll share that as a resource in the group, in the Limitless You as a resource. And I'll share it probably at the end of the broadcast as well. The 4 Agreements. And one of the agreements is do not assume. Don't make assumptions. So when you make assumptions, you are creating a story. You are creating a narrative. You are creating a reality that may not be based in fact or truth. And we do it all the time. You let somebody walk past you at work, or you walk into the kitchen and the people who were there sitting down, talking and eating, just get up and leave. Don't we start to create stories? Or we do something and then we hear people burst out laughing. We automatically think they're laughing at me. What I do. But that may not even be the case. When we walk past people, and it happens all the time, we walk past people and they didn't speak or something, and we think, I do something more. This person stuck up, or this whatever, and then we'll go and spread that child. That person stuck up, she don't talk to people, and blah, 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 blah. When that's not even the case. I I know of people who are misunderstood and they're like, oh, child, that person, that's a diva just because of how they carry themselves. But when you get to know that person, the person is so down to earth and friendly. They may just be an introvert. So they walk into the room, but you don't know how much effort and energy it takes for an introvert to go into the public. So they're not going to be the ones to be running up on you and starting a conversation or being the first to smile, but it doesn't mean that they're not friendly. They're friendly, but they're not going to be the first to initiate. But then now we've created this story around this person that's not real, and you could miss out on having a really great relationship or a collaboration or an alliance with someone. So we want to make sure that when we communicate, let's ask questions. If somebody walked past you and didn't say anything, and you don't have to be hey, what happened to you? Speak to me. No. You could walk up to them and say, hey, everything okay? I just said good morning to you and you didn't even answer. And then maybe, oh, wow, I didn't even hear you. I had my earbuds in, or my mind was so far away. I have this assignment I'm working on. I can't even figure this out, and I'm under pressure. Or, man, this COVID got me all mixed up. Right? I mean, it's completely different from what you were imagining it to be. So seek first to understand. This is what Stephen Covey said. Then be understood. So let's seek understanding through conversation, through questions, through sharing with each other. What else does silence cost you? It costs you respect. Believe it or not, you think you're being a peacemaker, but people look at you as someone who just doesn't have the capacity to show up. Now that's something to sit on. People think you don't have the capacity to show up. When you are silent, people think you don't have anything to offer. People think you're happy and content where you are. It's shocking when people open up and say, you'd be like, wow, I didn't know you felt that way. Wow, I didn't know you wanted that. Wow, I didn't know you didn't like that. I shared before in the other broadcasts that I do, one of the things that I'm an advocate about is male empowerment. And every month I do an event called Men Speak. We have one coming up in a couple of weeks. And we're doing a part 2 to the topic we did last month, which was sexpectations. Sexpectations. And so what we talked about women and men that fake during their sexual experiences. And you're saying, what is that level of silence costing you? When you don't speak up about what you want, about what you enjoy, about what you don't like, even in such an intimate moment. It may not be in the moment, but at least there should be some conversation about it. But if you don't speak up, then you're costing yourself pleasure. You're costing yourself deeper connection and intimacy because what you're doing is not authentic. And then people don't respect that. In actual fact, it hurts people when you go around pretending like you're on board with something and you're not. When you go around acting like everything's cool and it's not. People don't like that and they don't respect that. And so you cost yourself respect, and your reputation is diminished because of that. And your ability, your potential, your capacity, your talent. I have a very good friend. I call him my brother. That's an inside joke, my brother-in-law. Nelson, who is on there, and I'm so proud of him and how he has When people are multi-talented and multi-gifted, and he is an amazing golf professional, but he also has thrown himself into being a professional photographer. And he is a person who speaks up all the time. He speaks up about things, and he has a nonprofit where he sends young people off to school. He has scholarships for them and all of that. But if people would only have looked at him as a golf professional, and he was silent about this other gift that he has, I don't even know if Nelson plays golf anymore because of the photography. But if you don't get out there and make yourself visible and say, hey, I can do this, I can offer myself in this way, then people will respect, or you could say how you feel about things, your boundaries. Boundaries is a whole different kettle of fish of conversation. Boundaries are those things of saying, these are my standards, and this is the line that I don't like to be crossed. And people maybe they're cursing around you, or maybe they're telling nasty jokes, or maybe people are not respecting your time. Maybe people are, whatever it may be that your boundaries are, their boundaries are related to your values, what you think is important, and how you value yourself and how you honor yourself. And you'll be like, no, I don't like that. Or I don't like when you do that. Or I don't like when you say that type of thing to me. I had a coworker once who would say, I don't like people to touch me. And I used to say, well, how could you be a mom if you don't like people to touch you? I don't understand. Oh, yeah, you're going to hug up your kids if you don't like to be touched. But she would say that. Don't touch me on a regular. And she didn't care about it. But you had to respect that. Health and well-being. Believe it or not, your silence can cost you your health. A lot of the illnesses that people experience is based on not communicating and holding things inside. Cancer has been connected to unforgiveness. Ulcers, acid reflux, tense shoulders, back pain, all of these things, clenching your jaw, grinding your teeth, all of these things are related to your silence. I will never forget this experience that I had several years ago when I was living in Abaco. And I went to this event, and they had a massage therapist there, and she was doing some complimentary massages. And I went for one, and she was, doing the massage and everything. And when she got to my shoulders, and that has been an area where I always would have so much pain, tense, bunched up muscles like rocks. And when she started to work that area, she said something, I almost fell off the bed. She said, you need to speak up more. I was like, hey, like in those African movies, hey, my sister, now, hey, my God, what are you saying? What? You need to speak up more. That's what she said, giving me a massage. And I was like, what in the world? Like, what kind of thing is this? Like, I didn't sign up for all of this. A massage and a prophecy? Woo! But it was true. I did need to speak up more. That was in a period of my life where I was not speaking up. And I thought that silence was golden. I thought that silence was the way to go. I thought that it was keeping the peace. I thought that it was helping me to conform to situations. But it was actually making me sick. And in my most stressful times was when I would put on weight. I'm emotionally eating. I actually had acid reflux and I didn't know. I thought that I had a dry cough. I had this dry cough that would not go anywhere. And I would just cough and cough. And I went to the doctor and I said, I don't understand what this dry cough. And when he told me that I have acid reflux, I was like, acid reflux? This doctor don't know what he's talking about. And he gave me this sheet of how I needed to change my diet. I needed to get away from spicy, acidic, greasy food and all of this stuff. And I needed to, deal with certain aspects of my life. And I walked away and I Googled it, I didn't believe him. I was like, how could a cough be acid reflux? And sure enough, it was there as a symptom. But I realized the acid reflux was because I had all of this pent up stress that I was not talking about and I wasn't addressing it in my life. And I'm like, you know what? My blood pressure was up and they wanted to put me on blood pressure medication. And I'm like, I am not going on blood pressure medication. I'll change my diet for a minute, but man, you can't tell me I can't have homemade bread and chicken sauce and all these other different things that we love so much. But boy, our food really is jack us up, boy, physically. But I'm like, I need to deal with what is causing me to not feel well. And it is actually not speaking up. It was making me sick, literally. And finally, peace of mind. Overall, our overall well-being and ability to be with ourselves and to sleep well at night. How many people, especially in this pandemic, their sleep has been disrupted? Their sleep patterns are so different. Like people would always tell me, like, why are you online or why are you up at 3 a.m.? And I'm like, I don't know. It's this pandemic. It's totally disrupted my sleep patterns. Like I'll just sleep for maybe 3 hours at a time. Like I'll go to bed and then I may get up at like 2 o'clock in the morning and I can't get back to sleep until maybe 4 or 5. And then it's time to get up, and go in the morning. And I'm like, got to get back up for 7 or whatever. And like, oh, and then by the middle of the day, you're feeling like crap, So we have to, but I find that a lot of people that can't sleep at night have a lot of things on their mind. That's what I find. They have a lot of things on their mind. And I always encourage journaling and really understanding yourself and what's on your mind. What are the thoughts that are twirling and swirling in there that you perhaps just need to get out? For very creative people or people that have a passion and ideas, that's also a reason that things are swirling in your mind because you're thinking through ideas, you're thinking about strategies, you're thinking about what I could be doing, the ideas and this and that and the other. So I always encourage, I talked about the journal. Listen, the journal helps. Get up and write it out. That's a form of speaking. That's a form of communication. Write it out so it can get out of you, out of your heart, out of your head, so that at least you can rest well and that you can have peace of mind. I hope this is helping. Y'all give me some feedback. Tell me how this is going for you and how you are, if you are relating to this in any type way. So of course, every night we talk about our success strategies and we have our coaching moment. So, whenever we get to the success strategy and the coaching moment, we are at the end. So what's our success strategy in this area of speaking up? Number one, we need to ask ourselves, what's keeping you silent? Why do you feel like in this particular moment, in this job, in this relationship with my children, significant other, parents? Oh boy, that's a whole different conversation. Whee! What is keeping you silent? Why are you not speaking up? You need to examine this. You need to figure out what is going on with me. Why am I not saying what I need to say in the moment. I need to say what I need to say. I just need to figure out how. Don't you hate it when you get in a situation, and this is me, because I've always like, I need to be more like present and quick to respond in certain situations. And you walk away from a conversation, you're like, I wish I had said XYZ. I wish I had just, and then the moment is gone. The opportunity is gone, you know? So, what is keeping you silent? That's the first thing if we're going to move forward in success. The second thing, how does it feel when you are silent? So, we have to think about the price that you're paying. You have to think about the pain that it's causing you. And you may think that it's not causing you pain, but it is. How is silence manifesting in your life? Being silent, how is that making you feel overall? Maybe this is contributing to your feeling of being stuck because you haven't spoken up about the things that you need to. You haven't shown up in ways that you need to show up. You haven't told your story. I have a friend who told me the other day, she always tells me this, as a matter of fact, I accepted this speaking opportunity again for a friend. And I shared a little bit of my personal story of, divorce and challenging relationships and all of that stuff. And just a touch. I didn't even get into the whole thing. And I always had this hang up about talking about it. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to be criticized. I didn't want to be judged. But people can criticize and judge you anyway. But, that's another topic too. But I shared a little bit of my story, and I'll never forget it. We're friends now. But she says she sat in that room and listened to me talk about it, and something was triggered in her to say, I need to reach this lady. I need to reach this woman and talk to her. Like something about her story and something about her, And she realized, and she's realized over time, that she was being silent. How many of us are silently suffering? Sometimes making those bold moves are very hard. It takes a lot of courage to be able to stand up and to speak up. And sometimes the end result is painful. I remember speaking up for myself and losing relationships, losing friendships. And so that's why sometimes we're silent, because we don't want to lose out. I know people who have spoken up on jobs and gotten fired, and they're like, well, I ain't speaking up no more. You don't get me to say nothing. I ain't complain about nothing. I'm not saying anything in a meeting. I could just come here and do my job and that's it. But what does that do to us at the end of the day? Are we really being our full and authentic and living up to our potential? Our real selves? Are we doing that? And then thirdly, envision what speaking up would look and feel like. This is a very important step. So once we get past this, what's keeping you silent and how does it feel, you want to be able to sit with yourself and see yourself the way you want to be seen and heard. So if the biggest struggle is maybe staying calm, maybe getting up and doing presentations or speaking up makes you feel nervous, you feel that, your words don't come out right and all of this. Well, listen, I know an amazing communications coach, Kim, welcome. I could hook you up with her. She is an amazing communications coach to get you to speak with polish and confidence in those types of settings. But if it is that you just need to sit with yourself and say, I see myself calm, I see myself confident, and you visualize that and you practice what you want to say. Imagine what would they ask me, or what would they say? What would some of the responses be? What would some of the reactions be? How would I react if they reacted this way? Prepare yourself. Pastor Miles Monroe said many years ago, and I never forgot it. He quoted someone else, but I never forgot this particular quote that he shared. Preparation plus opportunity equals success. Preparation plus opportunity equals success. So when you prepare for opportunities known and unknown, because every time that I get up and do something that I'm passionate about, whether it's for money or not, it's preparing me for something else. It's preparing me for another opportunity and another opportunity and another opportunity. So visualize how you want to see yourself showing up and speaking up. And trust me, it'll come to pass. I have coached people along these lines who have had to have difficult conversations. You know, they may be a manager and they have to have a difficult conversation with someone. And we go through this process and they're like, wow, you know, it really wasn't as bad as I thought. I'm like, yeah, I know. And sometimes it can be bad, but the more opportunity you get to practice, the easier it becomes and the more they're able to think on your feet and that sort of thing. So as we move to our coaching moment for Speak Up, number 4, we want to recognize, reframe, reset. Remember these 3: recognize, reframe, reset. This is what we do when we want to establish ourselves in the change. So we want to acknowledge when we are not saying what we want, need, or think. So when you are in that relationship, you know, and men laugh at women all the time, right? They'll say women really don't ever know what they want until they make a decision and then they're like, oh, no, I don't want that. Like before I made a decision, you didn't want anything. Now all of a sudden now you know what you want. Right? And so we would be like, honey, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. Where do you want to go tonight for this going out, date night, whatever it is? I don't know. You get in the restaurant, I don't know what I want. You order something, he orders something, you look at his, that look better than what I got. I can have some. You have to know what you want and you have to be able to say it. Why go to a restaurant that you don't like unless it's his favorite? And if it's his favorite, then you got to find something on the menu that you would enjoy so that, you know, he enjoys your company and you're supportive. But at the end of the day, why would you go along? And this is why I believe a lot of relationships don't work, because we are not honest. We're not honest. We go on these dates and we pretend because we want to get that person. We want to get that man. We want to get that woman. And so we'll pretend to eat what they eat, and we'll drink what they drink. We'll do what they do. But we don't really want to do those things. And that really isn't even who we are. And then when you get what you want, so to speak, and you're married or whatever, you're in this committed relationship, and then the real you shows up and they're looking like, who is this person? Like, what in the world? Who are you? So you have to recognize in these moments when you feel this urge to not say what you really want, what you really need, or what you really think, you have to ask yourself why. Some of it comes from people pleasing. Some of it comes from fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of loneliness. And so we'll do whatever we need to do to keep things the same, to keep things comfortable, to keep things on this status quo. So we have to understand and recognize what's going on and why we are staying silent in these moments. And then we want to reframe that. Of course, been talking about this all week. You got to disrupt the pattern. So in this pattern, if it's timidity, where you say, you know, and people take such pride in saying, I'm shy. I'm just shy. A lot of times you're not shy. It's something else. So you need to disrupt that pattern. You need to If there is an opportunity that you can grab it. If it's reading the lesson, they ask you to read the lesson in church, read the lesson in church. Do the open prayer. You know, speak up in the meeting, introduce the speaker, do the vote of thanks, be the team leader in the next group assignment. Do something, man. Disrupt that pattern of silence and timidity and reset. Keep practicing until you have created this new habit of being vocal and visible. And trust me, it's going to transform your life. You're going to feel a freedom and a liberation that you would have not felt for a long time. And people aren't going to recognize you. Be like, oh, Jay. Because I know people look at me like, what? I can't believe she said that. People like, they think, oh, she's so confident, whatever. They only know that it sometimes takes a lot of nerve, a lot of courage. Sometimes you have to force yourself to do certain things, but you know that it's because you have to do it. Because if you don't do it, you live a life of regret. So let's recognize, reframe, reset, and let's speak up. So thank you so much for being a part of tonight. Again, I hope that this has been helpful and enlightening, and that we can just live out, live our lives fully, live with abandon and joy and power and peace. All of these things are what we need to do. It absolutely is freedom. My sister here, Telly, I saw Narissa earlier. Telly don't care. Telly will speak up. She is going to be herself. Listen, I admire that about you, Telly. But it is freedom. Who is this here? Oh, Telly says, I'm the one to speak up and get kicked out. Yes, I know that's right. Oh, and my sis, I'm the quiet one. Yes, I know that. You are the quiet one. But sometimes it's good to be quiet, There's nothing wrong with being quiet. It's just in those times when you need to use your voice. You need to use your voice. You need to use your voice. It's a must. It is a must. So I'm going to share some of the resources again. I know I mentioned I was supposed to put in the chat. I don't know if this is going to come because I'm actually streaming to 3 platforms, to 3 pages simultaneously. So I don't even know which page this is going to come out on. But the 4 agreements, let me put it actually on the screen. Let me do that. Oh, you labeled the troublemaker, Italy. Yeah, but it's part of your nature. You have the nature of people who, they will fight. They'll fight for themselves and they'll fight for the people that they love, and we need people like that in the world. That's how we agitate for change. But I find that you have some people in the world that want to hide behind people like you. They want to hide behind your power, hide behind your courage. And then when you look, sometimes you're the only one standing and there's no crowd left. They'll be like, go Telly, yes, tell them that, yes, you need to say that. And then you get up and you blabbing off, and when you look around, there is nobody. You all by yourself. And that's how we get picked off in a fight. We need more unity among ourselves, and we are all using our collective voice. Imagine the power that we would have. But the 4 Agreements is the book that I mentioned. Really, really good book. But there's also a quote that just summarizes what those 4 agreements are, and that's really good as well. So I will post it on the various platforms once we are done tonight, because there's only so much I can do from this broadcast studio. So that's right. Isn't that a song too? Say what you have to say. Say what you want to say. I think that's that song called Brave. So you will notice that when things pop into my head, whatever, sometimes these are the things that can help to anchor you in your change. If you can attach it to a song, if you can attach it to a book, a video message, an article, a quiz results, whatever it is that you can use to reinforce the change that you are trying to create, then go for it. So I'm going to find that song Brave and I'm going to drop it into these chats as well. Say what you want to say. Just say it with love. Use temperance, use wisdom, use maturity. But say what you want to say. Get that pain out of your shoulders, out of your stomach, out of your head. That's why your head all tight and tense. Your stomach all in knots. Your shoulders in knots. Say what you have to say. Right? We can beat this self-sabotage this same week. This same week. Don't we have a hashtag that says silent no more? We need that. Silent no more. I can put that on the screen too. And guess what? It's scary, you know. I won't lie to you. It's scary. But you got to do it. There's so much hanging in the balance. There are people waiting for you to use your voice. There's opportunities waiting for you, but you have to use your voice. There's money waiting for you, but you have to use your voice. My good friend Keishelle Davis always telling us, she's like, girl, you need to sell. Like, I don't sell nothing. I'm terrible. I give everything away. I'm serious. I need somebody who just, sell things for me. I have books that I've written that I just have sitting in my bedroom. Like, it's ridiculous. She's like, you got to sell, man. So hashtag silent no more. We can get out there and we are going to show up. We're going to speak up and we're going to show out, because this is what we're destined to do. And we are not going to sabotage our own success anymore. We are leaving that in 2020, just like how we want to leave COVID in 2020. We can leave this being quiet and blaming and procrastinating and all of these things that are hindering us from fully evolving into the person that we are, that person deep on the inside that we are repressing and suppressing because we're doing it to make other people happy and doing it to make other people shine. No, man, we finished with that. We finished with that. That's staying in 2020. Silent no more. Thank you so much. Join us tomorrow night. That's right, Friday night. Lockdown night. In the Bahamas anyway. Lockdown night. We could be right here. 7 o'clock. Talking about number 5. That 5th thing that we do to stop and block our success. I appreciate all of you. I love all of you. Thank you so much for being a part of this and for hanging through with all of these different nights. Nelson actually told me that I had the wrong privacy settings on these videos, so we weren't able to share them. So I've changed that. So hopefully you'll be able to share the video, share it with someone who you think needs to hear the message, because it's important. It's important. It's time. It's time to COVID. If one thing COVID has taught us is we need to live life, right? We need to live life. It's too time out for hanging in the shadows and shrinking back and, you know, just saying I could just let other people live life and I could just do my little thing in this corner here. No, man, time out for that. There's too much in you for you to just let it go to waste. And there are people who are waiting to hear your voice. Silent no more. See you guys tomorrow night.